3 membership pathway mistakes right now on the Church Revitalization Podcast.
Hello, and welcome to the Church Revitalization Podcast, brought to you by the Malphurs Group team, where each week we tackle important, actionable topics to help churches thrive. And now, here's your hosts, Scott Ball and A.J. Mathieu.
Welcome to the Church Revitalization Podcast. My name is Scott Ball. I'm joined by my friend and co-host, A.J. Mathieu.
Yes. All right.
As this is being recorded, for those of you who have listened diligently every week for the last several weeks of the podcast, it has been many a week since the two of us have recorded a podcast. So, if we seem a little rusty, give us some grace.
Yeah. Heavy travel season kind of winding down.
Yep. But glad to be back at it, and glad to be talking about church membership, which is something that AJ and I both, there are some people, let's say on one extreme, you have sort of the 9 Marxists, the 9 Marx people, who are very aggressively pro-church membership. They will hunt you down, and they will give you all the reasons why it's the most important thing. And then maybe on the extreme other end might be some sort of non-denominational church that doesn't ever think about church membership. Me, I'm kind of in the middle. AJ, I won't speak for him on where he feels about it. We're not aggressively church membership people, and think it's the most important.
Sounds like you are speaking for me. You're saying we are.
Oh, okay. I am. Okay. Fair enough. I am not the most aggressive church membership person. I don't think it's the end all be all, but it's not important. And we're going to chat about how to make it better. If it is something that you care about, there may be some mistakes you're making, and we're going to talk about those things.
Yeah. Well, see, now that I made you define it for yourself individually, I'll just say, yeah, I pretty much agree. I'm the same.
I'm glad we see eye to eye.
Next time you can speak for me.
Yeah. When have you ever cared about me speaking for you?
Whenever you set it up as, I don't want to speak for AJ, but we. You got French all of a sudden.
Yeah. For the record, there's a lot of things that you say that we should do that are tasks for me. So
it's true.
So I think we're even.
We are good at there's singular we and there's collective we.
Yeah, exactly right. Okay. So most churches do have a membership problem, which is that when people don't want to commit. They don't want to go.
People don't want to commit.
Yeah, people don't want to commit. But the problem isn't necessarily the people. It might be you. It's not them, it's you. And there are some key mistakes that churches often make when it comes to church membership. And we're going to be addressing those things that might be sabotaging your church membership process and how you can fix them.
Yeah. We also recognize you likely inherited your church membership process. So unless you're a church planter and founder of a church or something and that you designed from scratch, it's probably been around. It probably predates you. And you may or may not be satisfied with it. But anyway, we just have a few things we'll cover, and maybe you'll want to make some tweaks.
Absolutely. Hey, but before we dive into that, let me just say, you might want to check out the Healthy Churches Toolkit.
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Personally.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't want to give too much away, but we are working on some. I know you might have been thinking it's a little quiet over there on the toolkit. Behind the scenes, it is nothing but not quiet. There's a lot of. I can't say anything else. I'll just leave it at a tease. But now is a great time to get into the toolkit because you can be first to try out some of the very new things. In fact, I'm hoping, as this is being recorded and as this will be released, I'm hoping that within the next month or so to start inviting some beta testers to try out some new features. I think I'm that close to being ready, AJ. So if you're like, interested, now's a good time to get in the toolkit, healthychurchestoolkit.com. Sign up free for 7 days and be in there ready for the new editions coming in the first quarter of the year, beta tests
Yeah.
earlier than that.
Yeah. Well, you're going to love what you find anyway. There's just a ton of training and resources available in there for your church, help your daily and weekly tasks, maybe go a little bit quicker and produce some great things for the people of your church. So we highly recommend the Healthy Churches Toolkit.
Yep, you can speak for me anytime in regards to that. All right, let's dive in.
All right, so one of the mistakes that we see, and we work with a lot of churches, we see lots of variations of the membership process, but not right sizing the process is the first mistake that we're pointing out. And as with anything, there's you find some boundaries on there, on one way of doing something or another. On the one end, we see churches maybe that have got multi-week membership classes that could even go into the months range, in which it's a really pretty significant commitment to be that available that many times to be able to understand the membership process of the church and what you're committing to. And then on the other end of that, the ones that are almost non-existent, just, if you want to be a membership, here, what's your name and address? And so there's, as with anything, Scott, there's kind of a middle ground. It's the best way to go. So, a lot of churches now are doing 1-day membership classes. I find that's plenty of time to be able to talk about what are the beliefs of your church, history of the church, distinctives of your specific church or denomination, understanding your leadership structure, understanding what discipleship looks like and engagement. These are the high points of a membership class. Of course, basic salvation theology is an element of this, understanding what it is to be a believer in Jesus and what the life of a believer should look like. So, I think you can accomplish that in a day, in a half a day. So that's a much easier ask than hey, come to our 8-week thing or our 12-week thing. 16 Tuesday nights is all it takes. So that's where I would be headed.
Yeah, I think there is a balance there. And it's 2025, so as at the recording of this, and so you can do a blend of some things. Ask folks to review some information online or watch a couple of videos online before they come. They can do on their own time, and then you're maximizing that in-person time. And again, it's 2025. You have the ability to know whether or not there's technology that exists where you can know whether or not someone actually watched the thing that you asked them to. And so, find some ways to keep the time commitments minimal. That will increase the likelihood that people will follow through with it. And at the same time, you don't want it to be so simplistic where people can just, read a card, sign the card, and bang, you're a member. You really do want to make sure that there's an understanding and knowledge. I think related to that too, AJ, is we emphasize a lot in the leadership pipeline process that this is a great opportunity to connect people into a volunteer opportunity. So taking them through a divine design discovery component, you could do some of that in advance, like some sort of assessments or whatever done in advance, but they bring those results or you have those results and you review them. And if maybe there is a component of this, AJ, that is either an interview or finding out some way, like confirming a testimony, make sure someone's been baptized. All of those things are totally fair, but there is a balance between too much and not enough. And a lot of churches that struggle with membership, when you get into a conversation with them, it's one extreme or the other. And you go, okay, let's, or it may be that they're not offering it frequently enough. It's 8 weeks long and they only offer it once a year. That's not very good. It would be much better if it was offered 4 times a year and it's 2 weeks long. 2 Sundays during Sunday school time or whatever.
Right.
That would be better.
Yeah. You don't necessarily, I think, have to have, the conclusion of that initial time end in membership. I mean, the elder interviews, those kinds of things could be done later, so you could provide all the information that they need. In fact, perhaps I guess you could even call fault on, like, okay, I just took in all this information, and should I even decide that day? I
Mm,
don't know. Should we not be praying about that? Get a couple of winks of sleep while we
yeah.
decide to that level of commitment to our church or not. So um, again, one of those things you can decide for yourself, but that would save a lot of time from a practical standpoint to not have to do like one-on-one interviews. I mean, what if you had 8 people there? How long is that going to take? So
Well, and
you
this
can
isn't one of our
schedule those later.
points, but I feel like I should mention it here. I think that sometimes churches think, if I don't have a class's worth of people, then it's
Mm,
not worth doing.
yeah.
If I only have 2 people, if I only have 3
Mm,
people, then we shouldn't do it. That's why. So we're only going to offer it once a year, so that hopefully there's
yeah.
10 people to go through it. And I reject that. I go, no, you can do it. You can do it with just a couple of people.
Hmm.
Just don't do it lecture format. Sit at a round table and go through it, but offer
Yeah.
it more frequently. If it's only once a year, you're only offering it once a year, and people happen to be out of town one of the 2 weeks, then what? They're going to wait a
Yeah.
whole nother year to become a member? Don't do
Yeah.
that. I think right-sizing the process also is
Right timing.
right-sizing the offering, in
Yeah.
terms of the timing.
Yep. I agree. I'm gonna go ahead and concur with you on that one.
Wasn't speaking
Yeah,
for you, but I'm glad
I'm
you agree with me.
I will I'll second that motion. Yep, that's a good one. Okay. All right. The second mistake we're going to talk about is that the membership process, and maybe even the communication leading up to it, the invitation, is that there's no clear why. Have we put out why people should even consider membership in the church?
Mm,
Um, and I think this is could be one of those blind spots, I think, that a lot of churches that are very much used to it being shuffling the sheep. Christians have come in from other churches.
yeah.
And so they don't, they already know. They've got all this stuff down. They just want to hear some details about what we do here that's different from their old church. And I think that's going to be a mistake just in perspective. And and if you're like, well, we haven't had a new member, we haven't had a brand new believer in years, well, then we got other things we need to talk about. And there's a lot of podcast topics you could click into to hear our thoughts on that. But if you're leading a healthy church that's growing and you're reaching people with the gospel, then we need to be able to communicate to them what church membership is even all about, because that would be a whole new concept. Um, and so what is this relationship we're entering into?
Yeah.
And what are you asking of me, and what should I expect from you? So yeah, this is something that that don't miss this. If it's become something that is just assumed, then this is the piece that you should start from.
Yeah. I mean, I really think this is a big glaring gap. A lot of churches that have church membership, they don't really emphasize it because they don't even know why they have it. They don't have much of they don't, nothing's different about when someone is a tender versus when they are a member.
Yeah.
And if there's no functional difference between the a relationship with an attender versus in a relationship with a member, except for maybe voting,
Mm-hmm.
then what is the point? There, and so I'm not suggesting you create all of these I'm not suggesting that you create barriers between attenders and programming, or attenders and discipleship. I would rather you make the affirmative case for church membership. What is that level of care? What is that level of connection? What is that level of commitment which comes with church membership that isn't possible at the attender level? So it's less about keeping attenders out of things and more about just building a closeness and intentionality and accountability. And it takes a level of spiritual maturity, I think, to want to invite that kind of accountability in your life and say, I'm going to submit myself to these leaders so that they have some measure of authority over me. And also, I'm going to submit myself to the service of this community. to these people and to engage in true discipleship and genuine biblical fellowship in this place. And it's not like you can't have fellowship or serve if you're an attender, but there is a deeper level of engagement. So I'm not so far as one of the 9 Marks people to say we can't do church discipline the way that we ought to without church membership. And I'm just not willing to go that far. But I think there is a point. I think they've got some genuinely good points to make there about how God did design His church and their big C church, and therefore the local congregation, small C church, to be a place where we're living out the one another's. And if we are essentially dating a church forever, then and not marrying one, then it's not possible to live out the one another's the way that Jesus would like for us to. So, I don't know. That's all I got to say about that.
Alrighty then. Okay. The third mistake that we want to talk about is this perspective of it being just this one and done thing. Like it all builds up to this. All right, membership, let's do it. And you're a member. And then it's just this big, okay, what was that for? And so, this is really the area that I think we as leaders in the church need to remember what our end of the bargain is supposed to be. Because it's usually fairly clear, like, here's what we expect from you as a member. We want you to contribute financially. We want your engagement, we want your, commitment to worship and to be a part of the body and all this stuff. But are we creating an environment in which you're going to be well discipled here? We're going to provide accountability and care and shepherding and, resources, whatever that might be. So I think the way this piece, this third mistake that we're describing is lived out is in a church that has a well thought out discipleship pathway, that membership is the beginning of something, not the end of a process. It's the beginning of a life of discipleship and engagement within the church. But that has to be something that is real and actually your church has developed and is able to execute on. So the membership shouldn't end with like, congratulations, you're a member and we'll see you, we'll see you on Sunday. It should be like, hey, here's where life really begins now. And here's what we've put in place that we believe really will become the best choices for you to make in how you engage in the life of our church and how you spend your time, how you're able to disciple your family. And then, that comes down to the ministries of the church. What are the ministries of the church? What are we asking people to participate in so that they can, grow in their faith and become great worshipers, that they can really be in God's word, that they can learn to share their faith, that they can live a generous life, that they can be prayerful, with God and others, that they can really feel a part of the fellowship. So, yeah, I mean, this is the meat. This is the meat of church right here. When people become a member, how's their life going to be different now?
Yeah.
For the rest of their life. So this requires some work. Again, well thought out church ministries.
Yeah, it's good to think of membership to some degree as a system. And once someone becomes a member, then there's a duty of care. I mean, they are submitting themselves to your church's leadership. And if that's the case, then you have a responsibility, as Hebrews says, as one who will have to give an account for that soul. And that's a big burden. And so you shouldn't take it lightly. And it means you might need to do some things that might make you feel uncomfortable, like have a system for tracking. When is the last time this person was seen? When is the last time this person was checked in with by an elder or a deacon, someone in leadership? When, is this person engaged in service? Is this person giving any amount? I'm less of a fan of judging an amount. but are they giving it all? If someone's not giving it all, that might be a problem. If they're giving, you never know someone's circumstance. So to me, that's like almost a binary yes or no. But those things that you distinguish as important for membership, are you holding people accountable to that? And then beyond that, are you caring for that soul? Are you shepherding that soul? Do you know what's going on in their family? Do you know how their marriage is going? Do you know how things are going with their kids? I think that's a level of care that every person would like to have from their church, but most of us don't expect. And it doesn't need to all come from the pastor. We'd be huge proponents of not all of that needs to come from the pastor. But it could and should come from someone who is a leader there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so a mistake that gets made here is we kind of just go, well, we're just looking at a roster. How many attenders do we have? How many members do we have? And once they've crossed that starting line of membership, we go, okay, we're good. We've got them. They're not going anywhere. But it's not how we should view it.
Thought about again once a year at the business meeting, whenever they're like, well, what do we need for a quorum and how many maximum votes could we have? Here's our membership list.
Yeah. And be like, no. Once someone becomes a member, I have maybe this would be helpful for somebody, but they're your patient. They're your spiritual patient. You, in a sense, in the sense that like, this is a person you're responsible for caring for. And if they're not healthy, you have a responsibility, some measure of responsibility to care for that soul. And I hope that you are listening to this. If you are on that extreme of groups of people, you're like, membership doesn't matter. I hope that you have at least some mechanism for knowing who are those people who you are responsible for caring for. And I do think that there being some sort of step where someone goes, no, this is my church home, is good. Whether you call it membership or you call it something different, it's good for people to make a step and say, this is my church home. Because once they've done that, then you're committed to them as well. And I don't know. I think that matters. I think we need that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. Well, the wrap up here is just a couple of quick thoughts, really on implementation, which a lot of times comes down to communication. So, don't have membership be something that is never talked about, except for when you realize we've got a few new people that have been hanging around for a while. It's not doesn't need weekly attention, but it does need quarterly attention, I would suggest. Now your mileage may vary. And if you're in a thriving, growing church that has tons of guests and this is just happening all the time, maybe this is something that every 2 weeks you're talking about it because you have another monthly membership class. But just think about it. I mean, evaluate your church. Where are we at? How often do we talk about it? When's the last time we did anything with membership? Make sure that, there's a variety of people are instructed on it. They're trained on, they understand what the process is, so that if you've got, maybe not necessarily every greeter, like every door greeter, but if you have an information booth, that those folks should understand the membership process. Maybe you've got some documentation they could provide. Maybe you have it listed on your website where it's up to date and clear to understand. So I think in the implementation or action for this podcast would be evaluate this as a system. Does it work the way we think it should work? Has it worked better other ways or in the way we've had in the past? And are we speaking about it clearly now? So do an evaluation. Evaluate your membership process.
Yeah. Just evaluate, communicate, tell people clearly how to get connected. What do I do next? Again, offer it more frequently than you think you should. I know. I've worked with a lot of you guys, and you're in smaller churches, and you go, well, we only offer it once a year. Don't do that. It's building this expectation that we're not going to have any new members when you're doing it once a year. Offer it, communicate it. You might be surprised. You might have a family or two every quarter that joins the church. And track what matters. What what percentage of your folks are engaged in service? What percentage are giving? What percentage are in groups? These are not bad things for you to track. It's not bad for you to have these numbers. It's good for you to have these numbers so you know who to follow up with and go, this person isn't engaged in a group. I wonder why. Is it because they don't know how to get connected into a group? Is it because they don't think they have the time for it? Is it because they can't find a group that fits for whatever reason? You can't ask those questions if you just, stick your fingers in your ears and, close your eyes and say, well, I don't want to know. So track things and use that data to refine your membership pathway and your discipleship pathway. So to wrap things up, I would just say you don't need to go nuts on the church membership stuff. You don't have to become like a psycho, too intense, but you also maybe should care at least a little bit about who's in your church, who considers your church home, and how are you caring for their soul.
That's a tweetable quote. Scott Ball says, care at least a little bit.
Care the requisite amount. Yeah.
All right, everybody. Well, we're glad to have you back here on
They were never gone. We were the ones who
we're
were
glad
gone.
to be back with you.
There you go.
On the 317th episode of the Church Revitalization Podcast. You can get just a ton of information over there at malphursgroup.com. So be sure and spend some time over there at the Healthy Churches Toolkit. You could sign up there also at malphursgroup.com or at healthychurchestoolkit.com. There's a way to connect with us also on the website, which, you know what, part of the reason we've had a lot of travel happening and continuing here for the next few weeks still is our growing team. Yeah. And we don't highlight our team enough, I don't think. But you know what? You're going to get some amazing quality work out of one of the Malphurs Group guides coming alongside you at your church. And we're really excited about the way our team has been growing. So when you connect with us, we're going to get you in with an amazing Malphurs Group guide that are available all across the United States, Canada, and Europe. And we've got multi-language options. So there's a lot of resources that we have and a lot of amazing personnel that are going to really be able to support your church well. So connect with us over at malphursgroup.com and check out this week's show notes there in your podcast app or on YouTube for various other helpful links. And drop us a comment if there's anything you'd like us to know or appreciate what you've heard. Love to hear from you. Thanks for being with us, everybody. We'll see you again next week.